The honourable gentleman, my honourable friend, in his nuanced way, makes an important point. That in the pursuit, Mr. Speaker, in the pursuit of perfection, we are in danger of losing the entire House. And none of us, the majority of us in this chamber, have made it clear that the one thing we do not want is a no-deal Brexit. Through all the debates and all the decisions that we've had, that one thing has been clear. And I'll give way to my right honourable friend.
I'm grateful to my right honourable friend for giving way. One concern that many of us still have is that we may end up for Great Britain with a no-deal exit. Can my right honourable friend assure me that on the face of the bill, we will make sure that Parliament has an opportunity to vote before the 1st of July on whether the implementation period should be extended, whether for 1 or 2 years, if the negotiations do not look like we're going to get a free trade agreement by the end of the year, and that the government will abide by that vote?
Well, I'm very grateful to my right honourable friend. I know this issue has been concerning members right across the House. What is to happen if there is to be potential with regard to an extension of the implementation period? We believe that we can negotiate in the time that we have now, but we accept that Parliament has a legitimate role to play, and I can bring forward an amendment to that effect that would allow Parliament to have its say on the merits of an extension of the implementation period, and the government will abide by that. Now, there is an example of representative democracy working well, Mr. Speaker, because one of the things that we British are prided for is our ability to compromise, to listen to each other, to learn from each other, to respect each other, and to come to a reasonable compromise. I've done everything that I can in my political career to reflect those values, and I believe and I see many other honourable and right honourable members who share that view, and I'll give way to the member for Bath.
I thank him for giving way. I have many times here made the argument for a compromise. I will vote for the government's deal, although I think it's rubbish, but I will vote for the deal if he will vote for a people's vote at the same time.
I have to commend the honourable lady for her persistence. But to reopen the issue in that way would be, with the greatest of respect to my friends who support it, the ultimate cop-out for this Parliament. It is time, Mr. Speaker, that all of us who believe in representative democracy accept the fact that the whole concept of parliamentary representation is itself on trial. It's on trial in a way that perhaps none of us had ever envisaged. But acknowledging the fact that we are facing unprecedented challenge is something that should all make us...
Order. The Secretary of State is entitled to conclude his speech without being yelled at. Mr. Robert Buckland.
It's something that should all make us focus even more determinedly upon the need to make decisions, however imperfect, however unpalatable, however untimely they might seem to honourable members. The public demands nothing less than for us to make a positive move. The time for decision-making is now. The time for proposing nothing, opposing everything, and seeking to play old-fashioned politics is over. We have to get on with this. And as somebody who spent my life believing in the concept of our membership of the European Union, it comes as bitter gall to me personally. But it's not about me, and it's not about individuals, it's about all of us. And I'll give way very briefly to the Honourable Lady.
Thank you.
Thank you. The Justice Secretary has said it's time for decisions. Before making a decision, I would like the Justice Secretary to give the Unionist community of Northern Ireland a complete assurance that there is nothing in the Prime Minister's new Brexit deal which undermines the constitutional status of Northern Ireland and the consent principle of the Good Friday Agreement.
And on that note, Mr. Speaker, I'm able to give the Honourable Lady an unequivocal assurance that is positive. There is nothing to undermine that, nothing that we will do will undermine that, and she can be assured of that fact. And on that important point, I commend this bill to the House.
The question is that the bill be now read a second time. As many as are of that opinion say aye. Aye! Of the contrary, no. No! Division! Clear the lobby!
Goedenavond, leuk dat je kijkt naar de spannende Brexit-stemmingen die zometeen gaat beginnen. Ik zal jullie heel even kort meenemen naar waar je eigenlijk naar gaat kijken, waar je op moet letten en welke stemmingen eerst komen en wat ze ongeveer betekenen. Waar we zometeen mee gaan beginnen is de stemming over de Brexit-wet. Dat is in feite de stemming over de deal die Boris Johnson sloot met de EU afgelopen donderdag. Daar wilde hij eigenlijk zaterdag een stemming over, dat ging toen niet door. Nu komt die stemming er wel, maar dat is pas een eerste stemming in een rij van vele deze week. Dus als hij die stemming wint, dan is hij er nog niet. Maar slaat hij wel een belangrijke eerste slag. En kijk je nu naar de verhoudingen, alle media hier houden telraampjes bij. Proberen echt op de stem nauwkeurig uit te rekenen hoe die stemming gaat verlopen. En dan zou het goed kunnen dat hij vanavond met een krappe meerderheid die eerste stemming over de Brexit-wet gaat overleven. Dat hij daarvoor dus een kleine meerderheid gaat halen. Dat zou een belangrijke symbolische overwinning zijn voor Johnson, maar dan is hij er dus nog niet. Daarna krijgen we namelijk nog een stemming en die wordt nog een stuk spannender zoals het er nu naar uitziet. En die gaat over het tijdpad. Johnson wil namelijk al deze ingewikkelde wetgeving voor 31 oktober nog door het parlement krijgen, zodat de Britten op 31 oktober door Johnson echt een heilige datum genoemd, omdat hij dan echt uit de EU wil zijn. Maar daarover zijn zorgen bij veel parlementariërs die zeggen we hebben gewoon meer tijd nodig om deze ingewikkelde wetgeving te bestuderen. Het gaat natuurlijk nog wel over iets, hè? Het stuk wetgeving wat bepaalt dat de Britten uit de EU gaan stappen. En kijk je nu naar die verhoudingen voor die stemming. Ik verwacht dat die stemming zo 9:10 Nederlandse tijd, 9:05 Nederlandse tijd gaat beginnen. Ja, dan komt het echt op een paar stemmen aan. En de verwachting bijvoorbeeld van de Financial Times was vanavond dat hij die stemming net op 3 stemmen verschil gaat verliezen. En als hij die stemming verliest, daar heeft Johnson al mee gedreigd vanavond, kan het ook dat hij ergens vandaag of de komende dagen gaat dreigen om verkiezingen te organiseren. Want dan zegt hij, ja, zie je, ik kan gewoon niet voor elkaar krijgen met dit parlement wat ik wil. Ze zitten me voortdurend dwars. Ik kan niet Brexit voor 31 oktober nog rondmaken. Dan moeten we maar weer terug naar de kiezer. Er staat dus echt veel op het spel vanavond. Maar we beginnen nu met die eerste stemming over de Brexit-wet. Ik verwacht de uitslag zo 9:15, 9:10 Nederlandse tijd. En dan dus die stemming over de motie over het tijdspad. Lukt het Johnson nog om 31 oktober de EU te verlaten? Veel plezier met kijken.
Lock the doors!
The ayes to the right, 329. The noes to the left, 299.
The ayes to the right, 329. The noes to the left, 299. So the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Unlocked. Order. Programme motion to be moved formally.
I beg to move.
Move formally, thank you. The question is as on the order paper. As many as are that opinion say aye. Aye. Of the contrary, no. No. Division! Clear the lobby. Question is as on the order paper in respect of the programme motion. As many as are that opinion say aye. Aye. Of the contrary, no. Tellers for the ayes. Stuart Andrew and Ian Stewart. Tellers for the noes. Nick Dakin and Nick Smith. Lock the doors! Order.
The ayes to the right, 308. The noes to the left, 322.
The ayes to the right, 308. The noes to the left, 322. So the noes have it. The noes have it. Unlock. Order. Point of order, Mr. Jeremy Corbyn.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On Saturday, this House emphatically rejected the Prime Minister's deal. Tonight, the House has... Well, you're too hasty. I've not finished yet. Tonight, the House has refused to be bounced into debating a hugely significant piece of legislation in just 2 days, with barely any notice and an analysis of the economic impact of this bill. The Prime Minister is the author of his own misfortune. So I make this offer to him tonight. Work with us, all of us, to agree a reasonable timetable, and I suspect this House will vote to debate, scrutinise and, I hope, amend the detail of this bill. That would be the sensible way forward, and that's the offer I make on behalf of the opposition tonight.
Point of order, the Prime Minister.
Point of order. Let me say in response, Mr. Speaker, how welcome it is, even joyful, that for the first time in this long saga, this House has actually accepted its responsibilities come together and embraced a deal. I congratulate honourable members across the House on the scale of our collective achievement, because just a few weeks ago hardly anybody believed that we could reopen the withdrawal agreement, let alone abolish the backstop. That is indeed what they were saying. And certainly nobody thought that we could secure the approval of the House for a new deal. And we should not overlook the significance of this moment. And I pay particular tribute to those members of the House who were sceptical and who had difficulties and doubts and who decided to place the national interest ahead of any other consideration. But, Mr. Speaker, I must express my disappointment that the House has again voted for delay, rather than a timetable that would have guaranteed that the UK would be in a position to leave the EU on October the 31st with a deal. And we now face further uncertainty, and the EU must now make up their minds over how to answer Parliament's request for a delay. And the first consequence, Mr. Speaker, is that the government must take the only responsible course and accelerate our preparations for a no-deal outcome. But secondly, I will speak to EU member states about their intentions until they have reached a decision. Until they've reached a decision, I must say, we will pause this legislation. And let me be clear. Our policy remains that we should not delay, that we should leave the EU on October the 31st, and that is what I will say to the EU, and I will report back to the House. And one way or another, we will leave the EU with this deal to which this House has just given its assent. And I thank members across the House for that hard-won agreement.
Point of order, Mr. Ian Blackford.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I must say I find the response of the Prime Minister quite extraordinary. Because the facts of the matter are...
Order. The right honourable gentleman is entitled to raise a point of order, and he is entitled to be heard. Let's hear the right honourable member, and then we will expedite progress. Mr. Ian Blackford.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The facts of the matter are this is yet another humiliating defeat for the Prime Minister this evening. who has sought to railroad through this House legislation that requires proper scrutiny. And rightly, this House has spoken with a very clear voice to tell the Prime Minister he is not on. And furthermore, it is absolutely crystal clear what should now happen, because there is legislation passed by this House. It is the law of the land, on the basis of not agreeing a deal, that the Prime Minister is instructed, Prime Minister, to seek an extension. Go to Brussels and do as you have been instructed, and do not put yourself offside against this Parliament. Mr. Speaker, it is crystal clear that this is a government that has no confidence, but a government that has sought to ignore the wishes of the Scottish Parliament and the Scottish people. It is obvious to us that if we want to guarantee our rights as EU citizens, then Scotland has to become an independent country. And I wonder to that end if you can advise me as to what we must do in this House, both in terms of securing the extension, but also in terms of protecting Scotland's national interest, as to what options are open to us.
To the right honourable gentleman, but I have a sense that his question is largely rhetorical. I say that in no disobliging spirit. I don't think the right honourable gentleman needs my advice, or even if he doesn't need it tonight. And so we'll leave it there for now, and we can't... would the right honourable lady forgive me if I take the point of order from the Father of the House? Oh, well, he's being equally obliging. Equally obliging. No, in that case, very well. Press on. Point of order, Mr. Kenneth Clark.
Your decision, Mr. Speaker. I don't think either of us particularly mind. Can I? It is a point of order, almost, Mr. Speaker.
Ask the Father of the House, is it your first, sir?
Can I ask the Prime Minister and everybody else to reconsider the suggestion he made that we pause the progress of the bill tomorrow? I congratulate him on winning approval for the deal he negotiated. I think, said in the House once, I would apologise to him and congratulate him if he actually got it, and he has achieved it. And the second reading vote was the approval of his deal. The argument is how long the House is allowed to take over considering it. I can't quite see the logic of pausing progress on the bill when the whole House is expecting the next 2 days to be spent on it. It would enable us to see how quickly the House is actually proceeding, what sort of time is being looked for, and it may enable then, if people start filibustering, which I hope they won't, for the government to get a majority for a timetable motion if it came back, which was a modest adjustment to the one he had, because I think 3 or 4 days more would certainly do it.
Grateful to the right honourable and learned gentleman, the Father of the House, for his point of order, and I await the development of events, but I think it is not unreasonable for me to say that as of now, unless there's been any change, my understanding, I say to the Father of the House and for the benefit of colleagues, is that the Leader of the House intends, I have a draft copy, to make a business statement which sets out government intentions for the coming days. I say that cautiously in case the government has changed its mind, but I don't think it has changed its mind. I wasn't expecting it to do so. So we will hear from the leader ere long. Meanwhile, point of order, Jo Swinson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Twice in the last 3 days, the Prime Minister has failed to force his bad Brexit deal through this House without adequate scrutiny. Without adequate scrutiny. He continues in an irresponsible vein to talk up the prospect of no deal. Is it not time to end the brinksmanship and replace it with some statesmanship, to seriously and respectfully engage with our European friends to secure an extension to Article 50 to enable this House to pass legislation for a people's vote, or, if he prefers, to have proper scrutiny of his bill, or indeed, it may well be for a general election. All of those things require a decent extension to Article 50. He should be a statesman and go and secure it.
I'm grateful to the honourable lady. Do I get the impression that Mr. Nigel Dodds wishes to raise a point of order? Of course. Mr. Nigel Dodds.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And can I say, first of all, on the second reading vote, of course, many honourable members, certainly in my hearing, voted for that second reading, although they were against the contents of the deal and said that they would want to see changes. And it is perfectly proper and right, and the House has made a very wise decision to allow further time for detailed examination of some of the most important legislation that we will ever have to consider, particularly given the impact on Northern Ireland. And at this stage, I would say to the Prime Minister, as he reflects on the votes on Saturday and he studies the votes tonight, that he would sit down with us and talk to us again about what can be done even at this late stage to ensure that we join in this great quest to get Brexit done, but as one United Kingdom.
I'm grateful to the right honourable gentleman for his point of order. Point of order, Mrs Anne Main.
From the Chair that this second reading has been passed with a significant majority, because the leader of the Liberal Democrats and the leader of the SNP keep saying it has not been passed. Can the Chair clarify that the second reading was passed with a majority?
That is undeniably true. That is undeniably true. I'm not sure that my clarification was required, certainly not for members, but nevertheless, for the benefit of those observing our proceedings, the honourable lady's got a very fair point. It is important to be clear, the second reading of the bill was carried, as I announced, by 329 votes to 299. It was the programme motion that was defeated by 322 to 308. So that is by way of being a public service broadcast. Yes, very well, yes. Point of order, Lucy Powell. Yes, I will come to the honourable lady whom I saw afterwards, but point of order, Lucy Powell.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I just wondered if you could clarify for us how getting Brexit done sits with pausing Brexit, because this feels like a very churlish reaction to what is a straightforward request, which is this House just have a short amount of time. Do those two things equate in your mind, Mr. Speaker?
Grateful to the honourable lady for her point of order. I think the fairest thing I can say to the honourable lady is this, and it's a factual point of which the leader and I'm sure the Prime Minister will be aware. As a result of the fact that the programme motion was turned out, it's very encouraging, the former government chief whip is nodding vigorously, we could not proceed, I must advise the House, we could not proceed with the start of committee consideration for which there is currently no authority. So, if I may say so, people are entitled to their own views about the attitude of one leader or another, but I certainly am not going to make any charge of churlishness at all. I think, to be fair, the Prime Minister is in pragmatic fashion accepting the immediate implications of the result. And it is literally a time to pause and consider how to proceed. I make no other point beyond that, but it's encouraging that I think Sir Patrick McLaughlin, point of order.
Mr. Speaker, can you confirm that what the Prime Minister has done tonight, he had actually no other alternative? Because under the last Labour government, they passed timetabling motions, which meant bills had to have a timetabling motion for them to carry on. Therefore, the action of members tonight to vote against the timetable motion means that we can't continue with the business as we used to be able to until the changes were made by the last Labour government.
That's right, well said, Patrick. I don't think the right honourable gentleman requires my endorsement. Suffice it to say that a book could be written on the subject of the genesis of programme motions, and it may well be the right honourable gentleman is tempted to pen it, though whether it would prove to be a bestseller is another matter. If the right honourable lady gentleman will forgive me, I'll come first of all to the honourable lady whom I've kept waiting. Point of order, Liz Saville-Roberts. And then...
Could he explain to me, and I'm sure to people outside, now that the government has chosen to pause legislation, and by doing that, to extend the Brexit process?
Order. I accept that feelings are running high, but the honourable lady must be heard. Point of order, Liz Saville-Roberts.
The government will appreciate, and people outside, that there is now more opportunity to release the economic impact assessments, which we should all have sight of before we make such material decisions.
Before the honourable lady makes her own point in her own way, and it requires no comment from me, but I thank her for saying what she said. I will come to the right honourable lady. Point of order, the Father of the House.
I'm grateful for your indulgence, Mr. Speaker. Would it be in order for the House to adjourn for an hour so that the Leader of the House could come back with an amended timetable motion to put to the House with its approval?
No. Be inclined to accept that without notice. And what I would say to the right honourable and learned gentleman is that it would be potentially orderly, but I have, if he'll forgive me saying so, to read the runes. And I have no sense, notwithstanding the argument that he has advanced, that that is the wish of the government. The fact that the Prime Minister has just exited the chamber it seems to me rather to reinforce that view. I make no criticism at all. I'm simply saying he's left the chamber. I don't think he has any appetite for the preference of the right honourable and learned gentleman, which I hope he can bear with stoically and with fortitude. And if the leader wanted to do that, he'd have said so, and he hasn't, so he doesn't. And point of order, Angela Eagle.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. But the leader of the opposition got up and made an offer to the party opposite to have a proper discussion about having a different programme motion, which would have given us more time for the release of things like impact assessments and more time to discuss what's a very complex and important bill. This, Mr. Speaker, has not been addressed, and whilst it's correct that we can't proceed tonight, it is the case, surely, if there was an agreement between the front benchers, that we could re-establish a timetable and look and scrutinise this bill properly if we didn't have a Prime Minister that was behaving like a two-year-old and playing silly games.
I note what the right honourable lady has said. The position is as I have explained, and colleagues will understand that senior figures in this place anticipate different scenarios, and it's not uncommon for them to communicate those to the chair. Members on both sides of the House, and the leader did me the courtesy of informing me in advance of what the government's attitude would be in the event of a particular result, and he has not departed from that view. So I'm telling the House what the government's current intention is, about which colleagues will hear more in the business statement. That is very much a matter for the government, and I'm not trying to choke off what the right honourable lady wants. I'm simply telling her we are where we are as things stand. The orderly thing, colleagues, forgive me, the orderly thing to do at this point is simply to proceed with what would be the choreography. I think I have a sense of how it's going to proceed, but with, in the first instance, the money resolution to be moved formally.
Not moved.
Not moved. Thank you. Ways and Means resolution to be moved formally.
Not moved.
Thank you. Not moved. Colleagues, we come now to a series of motions, and I think number 9, 7, 8 and 19. Yes. And if I may suggest it, we will take number 6 first. Motion number 6, the whip to move, executing the European Union, brackets, gas, close brackets.
I beg to move.
The question is as on the order papers. Members of that have been to say aye. Aye. Of the contrary, no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Motion number 7, exiting the European Union, the whip to move.
I beg to move.
The question is as on the order papers. Members of that have been to say aye. Aye. Of the contrary, no. No. Division is deferred until tomorrow. Motion number 8, exiting the European Union, brackets, auditors, close brackets, the whip to move.
I beg to move.
Thank you. The question is, as on the order papers, men's other opinions say aye. Of the contrary, no. Very well. The division is deferred until tomorrow. Motion number 9, exiting the European Union, brackets, sea fisheries, close brackets, whip to move.
I beg to move.
Sorry?
Agriculture.
I do beg your pardon. You're entirely correct. Agriculture. Yes, indeed. Number 9. Yeah, he still begs to move, and that's helpful. The question is, as on the order papers, most of them say aye. No. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 and 18. Up to 18. Yes. With the leave of the House, I propose to take motions 10 to 18 together. 10 to 18 together. Colleagues can see what they are if they look. The whip to move. The question is, as on the order paper, in respect of motions 10 to 18 inclusive. As many as of that opinion say aye. Of the contrary, no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Motion number 19, exiting the European Union, brackets, financial services, close brackets, whip to move.
I beg to move.
Thank you. The question is, as on the order paper, as many as of that opinion say aye. Of the contrary, no. The division is deferred until tomorrow. Motion number 20 on legal aid and advice. The whip to move.
I beg to move.
Thank you. The question is, as on the order paper, as many as I've done, been to say aye. Of the contrary, no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Order. I think we come out of the business. Motion number 21 on business of the House. The whip to move.
I beg to move.
Thank you. The question is, as on the order paper, as most other opinions say aye.
Aye.
Of the contrary, no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. We come now to petitions.
If the business statement.
Sorry? Well, we will. Yeah, okay, we'll take the business statement first. Yes, very well. Yeah. Which will have a bigger audience than the petition. Lord President of the Council and Leader of the House, Mr. Jacob Rees-Mogg.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think I'm petitioning to make another statement. Because of the loss of the programme motion, I have to make a statement because the bill now stands referred to a committee under Standing Order 83A and Standing Order 63, and I mention that for the convenience of the House. Therefore, I have no option but to make a business statement, as we could not have continued with the business previously set out for tomorrow. Therefore, tomorrow, the 23rd of October, there will be the continuation of the debate on the Queen's speech on the NHS. On Thursday, the 24th of October, there will be conclusion of the debate on the Queen's speech on the economy, and on Friday, the 25th of October, the House will not be sitting.
The Shadow Leader of the House, Valerie Vaz.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And can I thank the Leader of the House for the business statement, which is as a business statement and not a point of order. But can I also say to the Leader of the House that he heard Her Majesty's opposition, and he will know that we on this side of the House stand ready to work with the government, and I know the Chief Whip is on our side. He's a very reasonable person and will be very happy to discuss through the usual channels a proper way that we can proceed. Mr. Speaker, this is important because it was only earlier this week that the Secretary of State for exiting the Union wasn't clear on what the tariffs were going from Northern Ireland to GB and GB to Northern Ireland. But as my honourable friend, the member for North Belfast, I think that's correct. My honourable friend from North Belfast has made it clear this is really important for the Union. So I'm obviously disappointed, Mr. Speaker, as are the rest of the right honourable and honourable members who have prepared the Queen's speech. This is no way to conduct business. We have been moved around, jerked around, quite frankly, by this government in the shambolic way. This is not done in an orderly fashion, and we now have the votes on the Queen's speech on the Thursday. I'd be grateful if the Leader could clarify if there'll be votes on Wednesday and Thursday.
Well, just before I call other colleagues, I think it should be pretty clear, and I thought it emerged in the course of points of order and my responses to them, but just in case there is any doubt, the technical term for the status of the bill at present is that the bill is in limbo. That is the technical term advised to me by the clerks, and I would refer members to the ruling of the Chair on the 10th of July 2012 and paragraph 28.58 of Erskine May. Any motion to enable the bill to proceed to committee stage or beyond requires notice and so will be considered on another day. So one could have had an indication of intent, but there does exist a requirement for notice. That, I think, pretty well completes the picture, but I will, at this point, take the... I beg your pardon. Oh, indeed, the Leader of the House.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm fascinated to hear that the bill is in limbo, because I think, theologically speaking, it was reported that Pope Benedict XVI abolished limbo. So I do wonder whether the bill is not in the heaven that is having been passed, nor in the hell of having failed, but is in purgatory, where it is suffering the pains of those in purgatory. To reply to the Right Honourable Lady, I think original sin is beyond the immediate competence of my answer on this statement. To reply to the Right Honourable Lady, discussions always take place between whips' offices, as is well known. The difficulty was that the opposition wanted the debate to continue past the 31st of October, which is the deadline for leaving the European Union. I would like to correct her on the issue relating to tariffs, and my right honourable friend, the Secretary of State for exiting the European Union, he did not say anything about tariffs. It was not a tariff issue. There are no tariffs between GB and Northern Ireland. With the issue, forms and tariffs are completely different things. I'm so sorry that the opposition is confused. After so many years of debate on this subject between a form and a tariff, we can put on, no doubt, specialist expertise to explain the difference. As regards the interruption of the Queen's speech, first of all, Mr. Speaker, this has a wonderful historic tradition, which is why we always take the Outlaws Bill, first reading, immediately after the Queen's speech, as a sign that this House is allowed to debate what it chooses to debate and is not there to oblige the Crown. But perhaps more relevantly, under this circumstance, there is the deadline of the 31st of October. And we on this side of the House are trying to meet that deadline by getting a deal through. The House has voted for that deal, but it seems to will the end but not the means currently.
Thank you.